Cleanups, faulty septic systems resulting in expensive cleanups, or a well water that's contaminated. And so this program is going to be rolled out over 2 years. It's going to be rolled out through the cooperation of 3 environmental non-government agencies: Clean Nova Scotia, the Atlantic Coastal Action Program in Cape Breton, and the Clean Annapolis River Project. And we've contracted with these 3 NGOs, Mr. Speaker, because they have a proven track record of environmental education and of working with people on environmental issues. They're going to be providing septic system assessments, water quality sampling kits, and water saving devices, and also giving information about assessing the security of their oil tank system. These community groups, as I said, are hired by our department to carry out these assessments because of their expertise, because of their closeness to the people that they work with, Mr. Speaker. They have a good track record in this, and any expertise that they lack, the department officials will be there to back them up and to help them. As part of this program, Mr. Speaker, we're offering an incentive, a $50 rebate for anyone who pumps their septic system. I know that can cost anywhere from $200 to $300, so it's certainly not going to cover near the amount we'd like to cover, but hopefully it will be some sort of incentive for people to pump their septic systems. We recommend that septic systems be pumped on a 3-year basis, Mr. Speaker, in order to make sure that the septic system is working properly, in order to make sure that they forestall expensive septic repairs. And septic repairs, Mr. Speaker, can be very, very expensive. So as part of this program as well, we offer a $3,000 grant to owners who have found through this home assessment program, the environmental assessment program, to perhaps have a faulty septic system in need of repair, a septic system that may be polluting the environment and also endangering the health of the residents of that home and perhaps their neighbors as well. So $3,000 is available, a maximum of $3,000 for people who want to take advantage of this program, Mr. Speaker, and to repair their septic system or to replace it. It will go a great deal of distance, the $3,000, in terms of repair. In terms of replacement, it will be about a quarter, perhaps, of the cost. Septic systems can cost $10,000, perhaps even more. I know the honourable member from the Liberal caucus knows far more about the cost of these systems than I do, and will probably point out that they're even higher than that. But nonetheless, this is what the department's able to provide under this assistance program. We also are providing eco-friendly products for septic systems, Mr. Speaker. And as I pointed out when this program was launched in Hammonds Plains, that these eco-friendly products for septic systems really are products that we should be using in all our homes. Because, as I said, people on municipal water systems somehow sort of take for granted the treatment of the water. But if we use these eco-friendly products, which we're going to be providing under this program, both at home septic systems and on municipal water systems, it will put less of a strain on the environment. The final part of the program, as I said, to encourage homeowners to use less water. We're giving some water saving devices if less water is being used, not only does it save energy, Mr. Speaker, but we don't have to worry about the treatment of that water as much because less water is being used. So I think it's a very, very good program. Sometimes governments get things done right. I think this is one of them. I think it's a proactive program, and I simply want to encourage all the MLAs from whatever party to take advantage of this program, to let their citizens know about it. Hopefully, if it's the uptake is a good uptake and the need is there, hopefully we might be able to twist the arm of the Minister of Finance that maybe in 2 years' time, if this program has proved to be helpful, that perhaps it might be worthwhile to continue the program, but that's to be seen in 2 years' time, Mr. Speaker. So I simply want to encourage all MLAs of whatever party who have residents who depend on septic systems and wells to take advantage of this program. And if they need more information, to contact my department, to contact me. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Halifax Atlantic.
Very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. I think this is a bill that nobody could really argue with, in that it is, of course, essential. And it's incumbent on all of us as members of the legislature to ensure that our constituents are well aware of and take full advantage of all programs that are offered through the auspices of government. And having said that, I will be very, very pleased indeed to be able to tell some of my many constituents who rely on wells and septic that there is, in fact, this assessment available. The only difficulty with this is, of course, as I believe the Minister knows, that it's one thing to know that there's a problem, but it's unfortunately quite another to be in a position to do anything about it. And of course, my concern, as the Minister again well knows, is primarily concerning wells. As we've discussed on various occasions, a number of my constituents are reliant on wells. They live in an area which is considered part of a metropolitan region, but is in effect rural, being encroached on increasingly by urban development with all the disturbances that take place in surface water, groundwater, filtration, construction, as well, of course, as, you know, just increasing air pollution and so on. But these are not the only threats, of course, that take place with increasing urbanization. There's also the increasing concentration of human use, and that's where the business of septic fields comes into play. The more people are using a given area, in fact, the water cycle is completed, I guess, in essence, in that in septic fields, ultimately the water is returning to the groundwater at some point. We're certainly very, very glad to be able to offer people the chance to assess the state of their septics, because that's one thing that everybody prefers to keep underground, and most people have very little idea of the condition of the field or tank, as the case may be. And the additional incentive to pump out is a very good idea, because that's one of the things that contributes to, you know, the deterioration of septic fields, is that they're not properly maintained. So the eco-friendly chemicals as well will be very, very helpful. But there are going to be cases where people's fields, tanks, systems need repair, and certainly $3,000 is a great help, but I think one can only imagine just how prohibitive the costs of the remaining costs of repair will be, some $9,000 in many cases, $9,000 and more. When you think about the fact that there are people in this province, and certainly in my constituency as well, who literally don't have the money to afford to test the water they actually drink. So they're not able to intervene at the most direct level to find out the quality of what it is that they are consuming. And the well water in many settled parts and old settled parts of this province is really pretty frightening. Significant levels of E. coli, as well as significant levels of mineral and industrial pollutants, which sometimes have built up over many, many years of sort of the old practices that we've had about disposing of things. You know, somebody referred to it recently, the time-honored Nova Scotia sport of illegal dumping, and that has affected the wells all around the province, but particularly where there's densely settled areas. So I am really, really pleased to know that this is going to bring to the attention of hopefully all of those 400 to 460,000 Nova Scotians who rely on well water, that it will bring to their attention the need for testing their water and testing their septic or looking at their septic as a part of the same closed system. But I can only say I sincerely hope that there will in future be an opportunity to offer assistance to more low-income Nova Scotians with the testing of their water, because it is terrifying when you have entire communities who, because they cannot afford to test their well water, may perhaps test it every, 5, 6, 10 years, or may alternate, knowing very, very well that they ought to be testing more frequently, but that they simply cannot afford the cost of getting that done. So I think one of the other things that I'd like to bring up too is that this is a very good program in that it will bring to the attention, or I hope will bring to the attention, more of the rules, or the basic ground rules concerning maintaining a well. Although I hope that we'll be able to offer some assistance in actually putting those ground rules into effect. Things like keeping the grass cover around a well, things like ensuring that local wetlands are still providing filtration for the groundwater, keeping animals and animal feces well away from the actual well itself, checking well casings and caps regularly. So to the degree that this is an awareness-raising program, I'm very, very pleased indeed to see it come forward. And this is one of those programs I hope really will be very well publicized, and I'm certainly look forward to taking my part in publicizing it, because knowledge is certainly the first step to power. But I do hope that having done this, that we will be in a position to give more Nova Scotians the power to actually do something about whatever it is that they do find in the water, if it's anything other than pure and potable. So with that, I'll take my seat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Member for Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a very important topic to anyone that lives in the rural area. And first of all, I want to commend the government for coming forward with a program to do this. It's been an issue that I've had many people on low income or very limited income, or even working families that have come forward and had a malfunctioning septic system and simply haven't had the money to repair them. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, depending on your circumstance, the Department of Environment can make you repair them, and they really do need to be repaired if they are indeed malfunctioning. It's, as the Minister's already indicated, that there is a significant cost to repairing these, and the $3,000, again, based on income, is not near enough money to do the job. It's not even enough money, in some cases, to do a fraction of the cost of the job. Some of these systems today are a really cheap, inexpensive system in ideal situations, probably as low cost as $6,000. That's a low cost one. And a $3,000 grant wouldn't be too bad, as long as you could raise the other $3,000 somehow, or make some kind of a deal with the installer to give you a break and pay over time, or whatever the case may be. But these systems go up well over $35,000. And indeed, it's usually, if it's a malfunctioning system, it's a malfunctioning because the soil conditions aren't right, or because they haven't been looked after, the systems haven't been pumped. And I'm glad to see that they've come across with a $50 program for credit towards pumping if you do the assessment. Now, the problem with doing the assessment is, once the assessment is done and environment is aware that there's a malfunctioning system, the system's got to be fixed. So it's a catch-22. So here could be like I have many people in my riding that widows, for instance, that have very limited income, and just the fact to get their septic system pumped is a really serious financial burden. A serious financial burden, which can be anywhere, as we've already indicated, about $250 to $300, maybe a little bit more with tax. And then if it's assessed and they find that it doesn't work, so the $50 they got for the free pumping doesn't matter anymore, because the system has to be fixed anyway. So that may be good for that won't be good for the next year anyway. So that's gone by the board. And if your income, hopefully you get to $3,000. Hopefully the repair isn't over $3,000. It usually always is over $3,000. So it's a real dilemma. So you get your system tested, you find it doesn't work, and then you go for help. So if you're in the low income bracket, you maybe get $3,000. Hopefully it can be fixed for $3,000. Very doubtful. So you're in a real dilemma. And then what happens in some of these old systems that really aren't installed properly years and years ago, they will definitely have to be totally replaced, where you put a new tank in, new field in, and now with the regulations which the department has, which I think are very good regulations for the installation of new systems, and I think that was a very positive move when that all transpired, will mean that people have a major problem. So what do? Maybe you've got your mortgage paid off in your home, you're a widow or a widower, and you're living in your home just barely getting by, you can't afford to do the maintenance, so bang, what do? You either got to sell your home or put a mortgage on your home that you can't pay. So you're in big, big trouble. And I don't know how many people, when they really realize how much this assessment can cost them long term, which is, I know, not in the intent of this program, won't do the environmental assessment, because if they do and they figure there's anything wrong, they're nailed. And they've got it, and then they've only got 30 to 90 days to get this thing fixed. And then try to find someone in 30 or 90 days to get it fixed. And if you don't get it fixed, the Department of Environment can potentially remove you from your home. In other words, you won't be able to live in your home anymore. So it does present quite a dilemma. I think the concept is fantastic. I think we've got to do more and more and more to make sure our septic systems are working properly. We've got to do more to make sure that wells, drinking water, is safe to drink. And I note on the release they have here, this water quality sampling kit. Well, I've got those in my office I give away anyway, free of charge, because they're free to me, and the Department of Environment has graciously given us a whole bunch of those, which is very positive, and I'm sure any MLA that wants them can get them. But the problem doesn't go there. Then the people have the trouble of getting it transported to where it can be tested, which can be a real financial burden on some individuals that don't have transportation. Then the other problem when the bill comes back, or the bill in advance, they're paying this thing, and some of these tests aren't that expensive, but some are very expensive. And then if it comes back and it finds that there's a problem, then you've got to shock your well, which is not expensive. But if you're lucky enough to get away with that, or you may have to install an ultraviolet light, and those things don't appear to be covered here. Now, it could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong with that. And an ultraviolet light's over $1,000 to install it. And it's important that these safety features are put in the wells. And most of the wells that were dug before the new regulations have come out, which are very positive, the new regulations, aren't dug to the standard. And when you look at the standard and see where they should be, it's very obvious why the standards are done the way they were, and they're right. But 90% of the wells, or probably more than that, aren't to the new standard. So surface water can easily get in the wells, and as soon as surface water gets in the wells, 99% of the time you get contamination. Even if there's birds on your lawn, or wildlife on your lawn, or you have a pet that's on the lawn, or you fertilize your lawn, it gets in the well. And there's very little way to resolve that. And to dig a new well, if you dig a new well, you're looking at a minimum cost of $4,000, minimum cost of $4,000. And if you're lucky enough to get away with $4,000, I know I installed a well for myself a few years ago, and the cost was something like $2,500, and it didn't include any of my time, and there was no markup of materials or anything, but that was that much money. And if you get some individual or a family that's working and just surviving, trying to pay the bills and work and get their children educated and all the things that we should be doing as Nova Scotians, it's a big bill. So I think that this program is excellent. I think it's got to be, I think it has to be improved some more. I think we really have to look at it and look at the real need. Now, some people may need $500 to make a repair to their system, and that's fantastic. And that usually isn't an issue. Somehow or other, they'll get $500. That's seldom the case. If you've got to replace that field, number one, you've got to get rid of the material, and you just don't dump that any place because it's contaminated. Then you've got to assess the property and see if it can be reused, what you had. Hopefully you don't have to go to a real expensive pump system and raised field and all that if you have the land to do it. If not, and if you're on a hill, you might be able to go to a sloping sand filter. Those are super expensive because it means you got to put a pump in and another pump chamber and all the material like that. And a load of sand, for instance, today, proper sand to use in a system is close to $500 one load. Some of these systems take 30 loads. And then you got to put gravel in it, topsoil, and usually the best way to do it is to sod it. And that's real expensive. And then never mind the cost of the piping, the cost of the tank. And if you're lucky enough, you don't have to put another tank in for a pump chamber, and then a pump, and the whole system. So it's very, very expensive. There's one suggestion I'd like to make. One thing that these things don't cover here, and these friendly, environmentally friendly septic cleaners, I don't even think they're recommended by the department. They say they're useless in the courses we've taken on this system. So I think a couple of things the department should look at is paying for filters on washers and outlet filters on septic systems, and that may help resolve a lot of the problems they have there. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will take my seat.
Thank you. I want to thank all the honorable members for having taken part in tonight's late debate. The motion for adjournment has been made. The House stands adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you.